Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome back. In my previous video, I talked about the dreams and strange events that took place after I stopped reading the Quran. Today, I will continue to describe the events that unfolded after that. So we were about to move out from the apartment where I lived, as my parents were emigrating back to their country of origin. My father was already out of the country making arrangements for my mom. It was a time where I'd already found a room that I rented, but once or twice a week I returned to my mother to sleep in my old room. One night, between 1 and 3 in the morning, she heard again strange noises, this time in the kitchen. The faucet was being opened, and she was hearing noises in the kitchen. My mother thought I came home late and was looking for something to eat. So when she stood up to check what was going on, she saw a black smoky shadow floating 1 foot above the ground. When she asked, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" it mumbled something incoherently and went into my room. She went into the kitchen to close the faucet and sat in the living room with the lights on, waiting for the morning to come. So the next morning I visited my mom, and she told me what happened. I did not forget the last story she told me, so I said, "Okay, Mom, tell you what I am gonna do. I will spend the night here in the room where you said things were happening, and you will see everything is fine." So the next night I slept in my room and didn't notice anything. On the other side of the apartment where my mother was sleeping, it was a whole different story. Again, the faucet was opened in the bathroom this time. So my mother woke up, thinking it was me, and saw the same shadowy figure mumbling, and it went into the living room. The 2 bedrooms were separated by the living room, and apparently she had been calling me. But I didn't hear anything, and still being afraid that this entity was lurking in the living room, she stayed in her sleeping room until dawn. She explained what happened the next morning, which only increased my confusion. Surely if there was something going on, I would at least hear it and would come check it out, but that was not the case. So with just a couple of weeks to go before my mom would emigrate, I spent as much time as possible at the apartment, but I never saw or heard anything. Once she emigrated to her country of origin, I decided to ask around, and one of my friends at the time did some inquiries with an imam at a local mosque. He told the entire story about my dreams, the incidents with my mother, everything. The explanation he came back with was a remarkable one. He said the dreams I had were an invitation for me to accept Islam. The mountain that I saw in my dream represented Mount Arafat. The enlightened road represented a path out of darkness. The path to the top of the mountain represented growing in knowledge and faith. The second dream I was showed the promise of Jannah when the painting came to life. The clocked man behind my left shoulder was our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he joined me in my prayer after I reverted back to Islam. The Imam said to my friend to tell me I was very lucky and blessed to receive such a sign and a clear invitation. The incident that my mother saw in the room was meant for my mother alone, not for me. The Imam explained that what my mother saw were jinns. He then proceeded to explain that there are 2 types of jinn: the religious ones, who follow the teachings of Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and so on, and the non-religious ones, who do not adhere to any particular faith. Just like people, they have factions within their beliefs, each with its own set of principles and practices. Basically just like people. Some jinn are devout followers of Islam, while others may follow different paths, or none at all. The jinn that was in the room smited the cross to the floor and was holding the Quran in front of my mother, was trying to convey a message to leave the path of the cross and accept the message of the Quran. This act was not one of malice, but of guidance, a way to steer my mother towards a path that the jinn believed was more aligned with divine truth. The lights under the bed she saw was a sort of cleansing. The Imam explained that these lights were a manifestation of a purifying energy, a way to cleanse the space of any negative influences. When my mother mistook the incident of that day for something malignant and placed the Quran outside of the apartment, and I moved out, the previous jinn that were inhabiting the premises simply returned and made themselves known, with the intention to scare my mom so they can move back in. The religious jinn probably moved out with me when I found my own place. The Imam suggested that these jinn usually move into the same places where people from the same religion reside, but do not actively interfere in our lives. Every house where people live are also inhabited by this jinn. They just do not interact with us in such a way that we are really bothered by them. He closed the explanation by stating that people only dream once or twice with a message from Allah if they are lucky. These dreams are rare and precious, a direct communication from the divine that should be cherished and heeded. The Imam was curious as to why I haven't accepted the invitation yet. What am I waiting for? The truth was, I wasn't ready yet, and I was still running from myself. As I contemplated the Imam's explanation, I felt a sense of inner conflict. On one hand, there was a part of me that was deeply drawn to the teachings of Islam, to the sense of peace and purpose it promised. On the other hand, there was a part of me that was afraid of change, afraid of leaving behind the familiar life, my culture, and my past. So I started to run away from myself again. But I was eventually going to end up in a situation I could not escape from. But that is a story for another time. Thank you for joining me today. I thought I could round up the story with this third part. Just bear with me a bit longer until next time. Assalamu alaikum.